Hey everyone, and welcome to Comic Breakdown. If you haven't, be sure to like and subscribe to the page. And today we're going to be getting into The Green Lantern, Season 2, Issue Number 2. If you haven't, check out Issue Number 1. I will leave a link so you guys can check it out. And without further ado, let's dive in. So diving into this issue, Hal arrives at Cosmodor City. And what Cosmodor City is a place that's like Disneyland meets suburbia. And Hal is here because one of his previous love interests, Eve, asked him to come investigate something. Now, Eve is somebody who was in the Green Lantern storylines back in the 1960s. And while she was in for a couple of story arcs, she really didn't have a big play. She's just someone that kind of disappeared with time. And what Grant Morrison's been doing is bringing back people from these time eras, these story arcs from those time eras, and being able to essentially bring Hal Jordan back to his roots. So we see Hal having conversation with Eve. She's telling him that there's been some kind of giant bird of some type because there's giant feathers all over the place. And while her father's been trying to essentially make a haunted space zombie themed park, there's something that's been causing some commotion. And so we skip to the evening, and Hal's patrolling over the city, and we see him reminisce and talk to his ring just about how he hates being at Earth. He hates seeing what's happened to Earth, what humans have done to it. There's just so much past and history here that he wants to leave there. And so while he's going through these thoughts, he sees Eve wrestling with some kind of tentacle-faced man. And as Hal swoops down and saves her, she turns, and she also has one of these masks on her face. And before Hal's able to do anything, his ring informs him that there's more coming, controlled by masks. And he turns around, and he's completely swarmed by all of these masked people. And so what he does is play possum, and he pretty much goes limp. Now his ring's trying to figure out why he's doing this, doesn't really understand the concept behind it. And then Hal explains to the ring, my plan worked out perfectly. They brought us to the archaeological site where they're all coming from. And so what Hal sees after he disbands the masked people, he sees what looks like a fossilized city of sorts. And as he descends down into it, he's met with a giant bird-like creature with a human face. And his name is Rakah, Lord of the Ornithoids. And he goes into telling him how the masks are controlling the people, and they're essentially harvesting their eggs. And once the eggs hatch, he'll have an army to be able to wipe out all the non-flyers, essentially. And before Hal's able to actually do anything, they have Eve prisoner, and he doesn't want her harmed, so we see Hal Jordan locked up in prison. And he goes into telling his ring how this is a necessity. He needs to be locked up because he needs to ensure the safety of Eve and all the others until they're released from the control of the masks. And while we see Hal in prison, he meets somebody that he didn't expect he would meet. He meets Craw. Now, Craw was the previous leader of the Ornithanthropes. And what Craw tells him is pretty much if those eggs hatch, all of humanity is going to suffer. You guys are going to die. Because when those eggs hatch, they'll bring the destroyers from the dawn of days. And so we see Hal use his ring to be able to break out of the jail cell. And then we're shot over to Eve and her father. And her father's being just worked tirelessly, almost to the point of death. And we see Eve, through sheer willpower, be able to get the mask off of herself. And in the same instance, this is where we see Hal Jordan come up behind the leader of the Birdmen and just put him into a chokehold. Now he does this to stop him from making a whistling noise that gave the mask control over humans. With this being stopped, all the masks are able to come off the humans, and instantaneously Hal just annihilates them. All the masks. And he goes on to tell the leader, this Earth is now protected by an innumerable superhuman brawlers, an unimmeasurable amount of superhumans. You guys would go out there and you would not stand a chance if you want to wage war. And Hal goes on to tell him, I told all this to Crawl, and he loses his mind and goes, the weakling prince, cowering in darkness. And so he goes on to ask, what can you offer us, Hal? What's the bargain here? What are you trying to say? And he's letting him know, like, my power ring stores maps of planets where your kind could thrive. Paradise, places where it's almost all sky. You could rebuild your entire culture, remote from human interference. And he's not okay with that. The Birdman leader is just pretty much like, no, like, this was our planet first. We're going to take it. We're going to own it. And then we see Craw make his appearance. And the two battle for leadership of this bird army. And as the hatchlings start to hatch, we see Hal say, hey kids, Uncle Hal wants a word. Be good, be yourselves, and never follow charismatic leaders. And Hal's just pretty much like, yeah, so much for your soldiers, Rakaw. And Hal explains to them, like, listen, like, we can offer you the protection of the Guardians of the Universe and the Green Lantern Corps. Like, you guys are gonna have to make peace with the humans. You're gonna have to figure out a way to do this, because obviously you don't have an army anymore to be able to fight them and kill them. So you have our protection, but you need to figure this stuff out. And so we cut to later that day, and Hal Jordan goes to the bathroom and he sees the Guardians of the Universe pop up on the mirror, letting him know that the guy that he was actually sent there for has broken cover, and now he has an opportunity to go look for him. And we see a little bit of a romantic moment between Eve and Hal here, but it's relatively fleeting, and we see Hal leaving as the Birdmen fly above. And that is where this issue will end. So let me know what you guys think. I love seeing Hal go back to his roots, becoming the space cop. I love his still disdain for being on Earth and all of that, 'cause it's just amazing. Grant Morrison has done some amazing writing here. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you haven't, like and sub to the page, and until the next video.